Bob Holt joining us from the Democrat-Gazette. Appreciate his time always on these Thursdays. Bob, I'm sure you're nice and cozy and warm in the house. Do you even think about venturing outside for a quick moment? Because if you do, you're putting your life at risk, aren't you?
I have a pretty steep driveway, so early Wednesday morning before, the stuff was scheduled to come, I backed my car down to the street, and then I quickly got back in the house and got back under the covers. And, I'm not a meteorologist, obviously, but I don't understand how when I saw the temps were going to be like 17, 18, 20, I thought, well, we're going to get snow, not ice, but it's kind of ice, freeze, and rain, so I don't understand. I thought that would happen if it was, like 30, 32, not 20, but, I've not, thankfully not had to drive anywhere, and I'm just staying in the house trying to stay warm and stay safe.
That's pretty much what I'm going to be doing until I am forced to go outside for a women's basketball game later tonight, which I imagine will be fairly lightly attended for being the last home game of the season, and that's a little bit of a bummer. Bob, we were getting into a conversation before this segment about who would step into the void if Arkansas had an injury. And thankfully you haven't had to deal with this for a while. JD missed a game, Kamani missed a few games, Trey Wade missed some games, but this team's been together for, the better part of the last 2 months, close to 2 months. You look at Kentucky yesterday, and they're without Ty Washington and Severe Wheeler for back-to-back games, and here's this guy that I'm not sure if anybody knew about, Bryce Hopkins, who gives them 13 points in 16 minutes. The guy was averaging less than 5 minutes in SEC games. So, I just posited, I upset JT because I said, how dare we say that Arkansas could actually suffer an injury? It could happen. It really could happen. But let's say that JD has to miss a couple of games and Devo's got to miss a couple of games. Who steps into the void here? Because this is a team that once Muss settled on the rotation, it's been a short rotation, and that's great because they're winning games. But who steps into that void?
Well, if you're saying Devo and JD were both out, Chris Wykes would have to play more. He's already part of what's basically an 8-man rotation. The other night at Florida, they really just went with 7. Kamani didn't play much at all. It was basically the starters, Devo and Chris Wykes, as I recall. And you had Chris Wykes that have to step into the void. KK Robinson, who played a little bit off the bench against Tennessee when Devo and JD both had 2 fouls, and Chris Wykes was struggling with turnovers. And Eric put KK Robinson in for about 2-something minutes there in the first half. So those would be a couple guys, that would have to step up. If something happened in the front court, Connor Vanover has barely played of late. He's a guy you might have to play more minutes. It's funny, I was reading up on the game last year against Kentucky, and Connor scored 12 points. And he basically doesn't play. So, but he seems to have a good attitude. Really, you look at the bench, and all the guys seem to be into the game. Eric mentioned this yesterday when we were on a Zoom with him, just about how good the chemistry is on the team. That's something he and the players talked about for a while now, but that, you go in the locker room, and even guys who didn't get to play much, guys who, obviously everybody wants to play, but you've got a good team chemistry going when guys are rooting for each other, even if they're not getting to play like they'd like to. And, of course, that's a lot easier to do when you're winning. But, I think they have some good players on the bench who can step in, but obviously, like Sam Pittman always says, guys are started for a reason,
So I was going to ask, what's really at stake here for Arkansas and Kentucky on Saturday? But a win for the Razorbacks would tie them with Kentucky in the standings, and you still have a shot at an outright SEC regular season championship. You'd need Auburn to lose the last 3, and Arkansas to win their last 3. And this is certainly within the realm of possibility for the Razorbacks, but I don't think you'd see Auburn lose the final 3 games. So, you know where you are. What do you think Arkansas has to do as far as seeding is concerned in the SEC? Because is there an opening, you think, to maybe get a 3rd seed? It looks like there's a possibility of getting that same seed from last year.
Okay, you're talking about an NCAA tournament
for the NCAA tournament out because they've already clinched I think one win you've clinched the double bye in Tampa, but you're obviously more concerned about what seed you get in the big tournament.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say they're not going to be playing until Friday night in Tampa. But yeah, I haven't looked at today, but I know they've steadily been moving up. Everybody's line quote, they've gone from being not in the tournament to being in the tournament to being maybe an 8-9 seed. Now they just keep moving up 6, 5, 4. But yeah, I think if they were to beat Kentucky, that'd be just a huge win, whether Wheeler and Washington play or not. Obviously, it would look better if those two did play, and if Arkansas were to win. Kentucky certainly has proven they can win without those guys, too. They've got a lot of firepower. And but yeah, I think this would be a big win. I don't think it's out of their own possibility Arkansas could get up to a 3 seed because they've got 3 really good opportunities. Kentucky here, LSU here, and at Tennessee. Those would all be quality wins. And then, you wait and see what you do in Tampa. They're going to, play somebody pretty good on Friday night probably. And then if they were to win, they'll play somebody, very good on Saturday too, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think Arkansas and Kentucky are both playing for NCAA tournament seed. Kentucky still got a shot to be a number 1 seed. I think the committee takes into account that Wheeler and Washington didn't play at Tennessee. Doesn't mean Tennessee wouldn't have won. Or if Arkansas were to beat them without those guys, then I think the committee takes that into account. So yeah, I think Kentucky's still trying to get a number 1 seed. I don't know if there's a huge difference between a 1 and a 2, but you like to be a 1 if you can get up there. So I think, and also just a lot of pride. I mean, Arkansas hadn't beaten Kentucky very often. I mean, nobody usually does, but I think Kentucky leads the series 33-12, so pretty lopsided. Arkansas obviously got them down there at Rupp last year. When Kentucky had a really not a good team, not a typical Kentucky team. But yeah, I think it's a huge game for both teams. It's on CBS. It's the CBS marquee game at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock Eastern. So that's a big time slot. A lot of eyes are going to be on this game.
Yeah, you're right, Bob. A lot of eyes are going to be on this game. And one thing that Arkansas has going for it in this 13-game stretch of 12 out, winning 12 of the last 13, obviously the 1 point loss to Alabama, is that they feel like they can win any different style of game, right? We've seen them win games where they've scored 90. We've seen them win games where they've scored in the 50s. As we get closer to that NCAA tournament where it really all does depend on matchups and who you get paired up with, who's in your region, and then, how all the chips fall in that first round. Is there a style of basketball out there that you think could be the kryptonite of Arkansas because they've played fast, they've played slow? Is there a style of basketball out there that you've seen around college basketball that could possibly scare Arkansas, or does that defense just been so good that it'll keep you in any style of game?
Well, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, defense travels and defense is consistent. You can obviously have a bad shooting game. You can struggle to make free throws. You can maybe not get the calls, to get to the line. But, defense is consistent. That's why great coaches like Eddie Sutton and Nolan Richardson really stress defense, because that's something you can do consistently well. And obviously you need talent. It's great to have height and length and vertical jump and all that, but really defense, the number 1 thing is about hard work and commitment. And you can see Arkansas is really committed now, where maybe they didn't have that commitment earlier in the year. I'm not saying they weren't playing hard, but Eric Musselman has said this consistently. Nobody's playing harder than his team right now, and I agree with that when you look at their defensive numbers and their rebounding numbers. So, you can run into a hot team in the tournament and just get beat sometimes. Somebody, has an incredible night, but, the way they play defense, and like you said, they've been able to win high-scoring games. They've been able to win, low-scoring, grinded-out games. They have some different guys that can lead them, It's not like you're just dependent on one player to have a big game. Obviously, it helps if J.D. Note or Jalen Williams has a big game, but Tony's had big games. Stanley Mude's had big games. Devo Davis has had big games. Even a guy like Chris Likes has scored 20-something off the bench, So, I think this is a team that's built for a good postseason run because of their defense and their rebounding and their versatility.
Now, Bob, with this matchup on Saturday, and when you talk about Kentucky and a team that, frankly, it's not just Arkansas. Most people hate Kentucky. The arrogance, the Big Blue Nation that they love to chant, the CATS, cats. Everything.
BBN.
Everything that goes into it. But I feel like so many people have a deeper hatred for John Calipari. Now, I personally know why I hate John Calipari. One reason, he doesn't know how to call a timeout in the final 3 minutes of the 2008 national championship game in San Antonio, and then decides to leave the University of Memphis about 13 months later, and banners got taken down. Now, I know why I personally hate John Calipari. What's the main reason that Arkansas fans hate John Calipari? Is it the slick back hair? Is it just that he happens to be the coach of Kentucky? Or has there been some real aggression or wrongdoing that John has done to Arkansas in general?
Well, I think it's kind of complex. One thing that I think started it when he was a coach at Memphis, Arkansas used to have a really good rivalry with Memphis. They played, every year. Mm-hmm. They played Memphis one year, Fayetteville the next, and of course Arkansas had got a lot of good players out of Memphis. Todd Day and Dwight Stewart, Corey Beck, some others, and so at some point when Calipari got the job, I think they were playing Ole Miss, which of course is very near Memphis, and maybe they were playing Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Arkansas, and he cut off all those games because his philosophy or his thinking was, why should I help those programs recruit my city? Because they all were getting players out of Memphis.
Well, if I remember right, one of his main reasons is kind of, and I don't know how realistic this was, that if Arkansas wouldn't play Memphis in football, then he's not going to take the time to play them in basketball too. So is that, am I remembering that correctly too? Also, as a factor,
that might have been. I think the thing he really said to set off Arkansas fans was they didn't need any more regional rivalries; they wanted national rivalries. And that was sort of a shot at Arkansas saying, hey, you're no longer a national program, even though Arkansas had won national championships and been to multiple Final Fours and all this. And of course, this was after the Nolan Richardson had gotten fired and Stan Heath was in, the program was down. But I think that's what really incensed Arkansas fans, because he took a shot at Calipari, took a shot at Arkansas, calling it a regional program. And then, so there was that. And then he's a very flamboyant coach. I think anytime you coach at a basketball program like Kentucky or a football program like Alabama or Duke or whatever, I think opponents, you got a target on your back. Nobody likes you. You're everybody's biggest rival, so I think there's some of that too. And you got to give him his due. He's a Hall of Fame coach. He's there may be NC sanctions, but he's taken UMass, Memphis, and Kentucky to Final Fours, That's not easy to do. So, and he's flamboyant. I know when he got tossed 2 years ago, which I think was a calculated move to get his team fired up, but you remember the arena just went nuts, and Arkansas got the lead, and then they couldn't hold it. Kentucky came back, and I think Eric Musselman's talked about this, that they were just too amped up emotionally, and now I think they're more ready to handle a situation like that. But, I mean, I think it goes back to that whole regional program shot that he took, but also, when you're Coach Kentucky, people just don't like you. I mean, Rick Pitino. Now, Tubby Smith was a likable guy. He was a great coach, and he was a likable guy. He had a good relationship with Nolan Richardson, had a lot of respect for Arkansas. But generally speaking, when you're a guy like Calipari and I think you just kind of bring that on yourself and maybe even welcome it, because it deflects attention from your team if everybody's focused on you. So, but yeah, that's always a big deal when Kentucky comes in.
Bob, we'll leave it there, and I think you hit the nail on the head with all of that about Coach Cal. I appreciate you, man. Have a good weekend.
Okay, you guys take care. Stay warm and stay safe.
Appreciate it, Bob.
Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Want to invite you to head out to Twin Peaks and Rogers when the roads thaw out. That's your sports headquarters. 29-degree draft beer is flowing. Great made-from-scratch fan favorites. And games blasting from every angle on one of their many televisions at Twin Peaks Restaurant in Rogers. You can also visit them online to order to go or delivery, twinpeaksrestaurant.com, or just show up in Rogers. More TVs, bigger screens, scenic views, more to watch at Twin Peaks. Coming up is National Chili Day. National Chili Day over the weekend, so you want to hit up that. That's right. They've got great chili as well at Twin Peaks in Rogers. 877-377-6963 on halftime. We have no chili for you, but we wrap up the first hour after that.
It might be over this season, but basketball is in full steam for both pros and college hoops. For all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline is the #1 spot for all your sports betting needs. Head over to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Use our promo code BELIEVE to get started. That's promo code BLEAV. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds. Right to the Olympic coverage is the best in the business. From sports right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, BetOnline is your #1 online wagering destination. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports and play your favorite games. BetOnline, where the game starts.